Hey everybody, this is Ori from AstroWeb. In today's video, I'm going to showcase to you one of the most essential plugins for WordPress that most websites, most WordPress sites need to have, which is a contact form. I've used it for so many websites, so many projects, and most that I'm familiar, most website owners use this. What we're going to showcase today is Contact Form 7. It's a really good plugin. It's very easy to use, and I'm going to walk you through how to use it and all of the important things that you might need to know about with this extension. This plugin, excuse me. So first thing I'm going to do is I've already installed it, but obviously you would want to install it. So you would go to plugins and just do a quick installation. You'd click on add new right here, either on the side or add new, and you type in contact form 7. It's really simple. Contact form. You can even type in contact form, and you'll see it's at the top. It's a really, really popular one, right? Contact Form 7, more than 5 million active installs, pretty good reviews. I recommend it personally, but obviously there's alternatives out there, so please do your research and find a good one. And if you have suggestions or questions, of course, let us know. Okay, so once you do that, you basically install it and then you activate it. And once you do so, you're going to have a section here called Contact. It's going to be a new section. And here you see your actual contact forms that you created. So I've created a few. You can either click here on Add New, which adds a new one, or you can edit, obviously, the one you have. So what are the important things that I want to showcase to you that is really, really important? Okay, so first of all, I've created something, for example, called Contact Us for Help. I just made it, and I made a page. I made a simple page that has a contact form that asks the visitor to input their name, email, subject, message, a radio button, a selection, this or this, and upload a picture. But there's more options. So what do you do here? So first of all, you have the name of the contact form, okay? This is the first thing. The second thing is you have a short code. Once you save it the first time, once you create a new one, you're going to have a short code. What this really simply means is whenever you're going to take this and copy it, right? So I'm going to copy this, and you're basically going to paste it into the page you want the form to be. So if you want the form to be on the home page, you're going to paste it in the home page. If you want it to be on the contact page, you would go, for example, on this contact page, go to pages. Obviously, you can create a new one or an existing one, and then you just type in, your page name, for example, contact. And I see here, and I'm just going to edit the page. And all you're going to do is you're going to create this page and then go to the section you want, for example, a new section, and just paste the shortcode in. Just, Control C, Control V, etc. You paste it in. Now, I've already done that, but you can do it on a new page as well. And when you do that, the form would appear. The style, the look of it's going to fit your specific theme. But if you're a developer, you can also customize that, and we'll show you some basic concepts about that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here, and I'm actually going to edit this, okay? So I'm going to edit this form, and what are the important things aside from the name and the short code, which you only need to touch once? You're going to have these 4 tabs. And the most important one is the one here, but we're going to review all of them, okay? So the first thing you want to know is this is the form. These are the actual data and the fields of what's going on. So if you notice here, I have your name and your email and subject line. And if you notice here, your name, your email, subject line, obviously I have your message and other things, right? A file. So what's going on here? There's a little bit of code to understand. It's a very tiny bit. And there's labels. So labels are the names, the text that people see. And then anything that's in the brackets, these are the actual coded fields. These are the specific fields. So what is here? In the beginning of the field, typically you're going to have the type of field. So text means allow the visitor to input whatever they want. Email means it'll validate that they actually have an email address, that it's a valid email address, like something at something dot something, right? Text area is just a big field, right? So these are text. These are small field. Text area is a big one. These are radio buttons and a file, and you have a lot of things here. But everything you have here when you create a field, you'll have here. So for example, if I want the customer to input a URL, let's give a better example, a phone number, okay? What I'm going to do, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to basically make more space for it and add a new thing. I'm going to click here on number. And now there's going to be a pop-up with some additional things. So first of all, this is the coded name, so you don't have to change it, but you could change it. This is related to the code itself. And you can specify the default value or not. and a range. For example, I want them to do between, just for example, between 100 and 500. I can specify the range itself, okay? And I can specify if I want it to be required or not, right? If they submit the form and it's required, they won't be able to proceed to success. They'll have to get a error message and fill it out before they submit again, okay? So if I click here required, I'm going to click on insert tag. When I inserted that tag, it inserted some kind of code again with brackets, okay? So if I go ahead and save this, you'll see that after it saves and I refresh the page, you'll see that now I have a new field right here, okay? Right here. And this is my field. If I type here, you see I can't even type in letters, but if I type in numbers, I could, because I made it a specific field. Now, obviously there's no label here, so I'd want to create a label. So I'd copy this label and then type in, you know, enter your phone number, for example, and then I'd add the end of the label at the end, okay? And I'm going to save it. Let me show you. Okay, great. So now I have this. That's it. So all of the fields that exist here, you can add this. The most popular ones are going to be text. They can input anything, email, telephone numbers is a pretty important one, and then text area and other. So let me show you one more example, and then you can play with these. And if you have questions, of course, let me know. So here's an example, for example, for a drop-down menu. Let's show that. Okay. So let's say I want to add right here one field for drop-down menu. I'm going to click here on drop-down menu, and I'm going to specify options, for example, okay? So let's say I want to specify, hey, what's your favorite food? So favorite food, and so I can have pizza, and I can have sandwich, and anything else, right? Other, okay? Now, when I click here and insert tag right there, I'll have it. Now I have another field right here, and you'll be able to see this. So I'm going to click on save right now, okay? And now that I saved it, now I have a drop-down menu. Now, it looks a little weird just because this specific theme is not fitting, so you'd have to have a developer do something. So about developers, when you create a field, for example, let me create this again, you're going to have this ID in the class. What that means, this will reference your CSS, your styling, and then you can make some custom CSS on the side and then just reference it. For example, this is the drop-down menu 3, just for 2. And then you can actually reference and change the style, but this is really for developers themselves. So you in some cases might need that. Okay. So let me delete that. Let me just refresh the page, for example. Okay. So now that you created all of your fields, and note I also created one, for example, with a file. So I click here on file, and I actually allowed them to upload a picture. Okay. Now, every field you add, for example, date, they're always going to have specific fields for that, excuse me. And so in some cases, for example, in file, you'll have a limitation. For example, what's the maximum file size or what type of files? For example, I only allow them to have JPEG and GIFs, for example. Okay. Okay. So now that we finished this, now the form is ready to go, and we've taken the shortcode and we've embedded it. Now let's take a look at a few more settings we have here. So the second part is Mail tab. What that means is when the form gets submitted, who does it get sent? Who gets an actual message? Who gets the receipt? So by default, you will get the receipt. You are the business owner or the person that has access to the backend, but you can change that. So I can specify when the email happens. I want to send it to, for example, Ori@AstroWeb. Okay. And I want to send it from, for example, the site title, which will be basically in my settings. And then the address of the website, for example, WordPress at this domain, TW88. And the subject line, so you can type in either these variables, which are automatically going to specify what was in the form, or you can type in whatever you want. For example, pizza. It'll say pizza. But if you use anything with brackets, it'll automatically, it's called a variable, it'll fill out these dynamic fields based on the data that's in the system, and you can use any of these. For example, your name was whatever they filled out right here in the your name. So if they filled out John 2, then it would actually say John 2. Okay, these are what you call variables. For the most part, you'll have to have the to and from when you send an email address, the subject, and some kind of message, which we call the body. Anything on additional headers is completely separate. Sometimes you need to do these for other reasons, but if your developer doesn't ask you to, you actually don't need it. And then you can specify the whole email itself, okay? And if you have file attachments, you're basically going to go and you want to attach it to the email. You basically can go here to your, the file you just created and take the name, the code name that was here. For example, the code name, if I click here file, it will be this one. You're going to copy that and you're going to put it with brackets, just like this, bracket, the name, and then that's it. Okay, and you're going to save it. Okay, so let's go here. Okay, and I'm going to actually refresh because I want to do that. Okay, so now that we reviewed the mail tab, this is sending to whom. Now, other things you can do is when the form gets submitted, there's some messages like error message, success message that can occur. You can change these. For example, if you want to make them just more friendly, or you have a website in a different language, you can change all of the message here. For example, you specified the field as an email address, but they didn't put an email address. They put a name. It'll tell them, hey, please specify this, please put an email address. Okay. So what else do we have? Additional settings. So if you want to add some additional code to do some interesting things, you can actually add that. For example, conversion tracking, sending data to analytics. So going to the second topic, this video is talking about WordPress Essential Plugin, which is a contact form. Most websites need a contact form. Now, if you do any kind of marketing or analysis, you also want to track the submission of contact forms. So I'm going to do a really quick 1 or 2 minutes explanation of how you can actually track the form submission, for example, like a lead submission in Google Analytics. Okay, this is a pretty popular topic. So what you can do is basically, you can read a little bit here, but I basically made an example that if you're familiar with Google Analytics, we have a lot of videos. You can check the channel. What you can do is you can set up goals, and you can create a goal, for example, that someone actually filled out a form. So you'd go to custom, you create it, and you say, for example, form submission, or let's say lead, right? Lead generation. And then you can specify that anytime someone submits the form, they'll go to a thank you page. Okay, so let's show you the example. So let me see, John 2. And let's say my email is this. I'm going to fill it out, show you what's going on. Okay, put in a number. Let's just say this is my number. Select test. This is a test. And I'm not even, this is optional, so I'm not going to upload this. Okay, so now that it was submitted, now I got redirected to a thank you page. Thank you. I just made a page. So how did I do that? What's actually going on? So the first thing I want to do is I want to talk here. Okay, so the first thing I did right here is there's a few things. So number one is, let me go right here. I added some code, and this is more for developers, but I added a code which Contact Form 7 provides. Let me show you right here. I added a code to my header, and it basically said if a form is submitted successfully, you'll see this script right here. If a form is submitted successfully, which is this specific tab, I want you to redirect to this page, Form Success. And what I did is I created a page called Form Success. Let me copy this. Created a page right here, Form. Okay, Form Successful. And I basically just made a page, and I basically said if it submits successfully with all the validation, everything was correct, the email gets sent, I actually redirected the customer. And then you can go to Google Analytics and go here to destination and type in the form success. If someone goes to that success, and for example, they came from the contact form, they came from the form, let's go back to the page, for example, this page, then, and I make a funnel. So they started here, then they went here. Then I can, if I click here, I can actually make this a goal, and I can see how many people filled out my form, where they came from, stuff like that. So this is a really simple recap. If you have any questions about that, there's a lot of ways to achieve this. Let me know, and I'll be happy to help with that. Okay, so this is just kind of a bonus tip that is very important. A lot of marketers, people want to know who submitted that, what's going on. Okay, so let's jump to the next topic. Okay, so next one. What else do we have here? Now, as far as the emails, let's submit the form for a second. Okay, so I think we already submitted the form. Let's go here to my emails. Okay. Now I submitted the form before, and if you notice, I got the email got it sent to me. This is the name, the email, the subject line, and the actual message. So you see, I already got an email, and it sends an email. Now, contact form 7 by default only sends an email upon submission. So if you want to store that information, so when someone submits a form, it just sends an email. If the email, let's say, didn't arrive for some reason, that's it, it's gone. It's not saving anything in the database, it just sends the email. So you need to make sure that you have an email delivery service. Depending on what kind of hosting you have, the email will get sent either from the server or from a third party. So if you have like a shared server, usually you don't need to install anything else. But if you have like your own server and you don't have a mail server on that server, you'll have to have some kind of third party. The third party, for example, is Sendgrid or Mandrill or other things. So we'll have another topic for this, but very simply, you'll need to install, if you don't get email sent, you'll need to install a third-party plugin. For example, I have Sendgrid. Let me show you. I have an extension called Sendgrid, and I'll put this right here. And in Sendgrid, what I basically have is I have a third party, another system, another company that they give me API access, and they can send the emails on behalf. So when the form gets submitted, WordPress contacts Sendgrid. Sendgrid sends the email on my behalf, and really simple. And I've made some videos about Sendgrid, which I'll link. And if you have any questions, let me know. But obviously, questions with mailing, just let me know. Okay, so what's the last thing we can talk about? So two things are actually the last thing. Number one is the emails, when the form gets submitted, the email gets sent, okay? Now, let's say you want to store that in the database. You don't want to just have all your form submissions in your in your inbox, right? If the inbox goes to spam, or you delete it by mistake, or you just want to organize it in a nice way, you want a better way. So there's a solution for that. There's another plugin called WordPress. One second, let me show you. Another plugin called Contact Form 7, and it's called something like Contact Form 7 database. And let me show you, CFDB7. Okay, so what it is once you install it, let me go right here. Let me show you. Let me do view details, and let me show you the page. Okay, right there. So this is basically not by the same makers of the Contact Form 7, but it's a pretty popular one. You see there's 400,000. We use it for a few projects. And what it does is saves it in the database. So once you go and you create contact forms, for example, here, let's say I created this one, I have these two. When you go to your, let me go here. Let me show you. Okay, when you go to contact forms, you'll be able to see the same two contact forms you created and the number of submissions. So for example, during this video, I submitted the form a few times. If you click here, you'll be able to see all the data, all the fields, name, email, etc., files, etc., and you'll be able to see them here. And so it's a nice way to organize it. And you can export it to CSV, which basically you can open in Google Sheet or Excel, etc. So this is a really nice add-on plugin, which I suggest to have. I'll link all of these things in the section. Okay, the last thing I want to specify is sometimes websites on the contact form, they get a lot of spam emails, spam submissions, and then it just starts to fill up and it kind of sucks. So what do I suggest to do? You can integrate with the way to secure your forms with a Recaptcha. So let me show you the concept of this. When you go to contact forms, there's a section here called integration. And integration has something called Recaptcha. And what it does is it allows you to secure the form that bots, basically code, cannot submit spammy stuff, or it's much harder for them to do that. You're going to filter out majority of your spam. Okay. Other than that, there's already integrations with email marketing. For example, if you make a form for people to subscribe to your newsletter, you can use this one, which I'm not familiar, but Constant Contact I am. But these are just third-party systems. So what is Recaptcha? It's that let me show you right here. Recaptcha. So owned by Google, Recaptcha allows you, let me show you right here, to add some kind of machine learning to check if a human is trying to fill it out or not. Let me just show you right here, Recaptcha. It's just a way for, let me see right here. So it's one of these things. So it requires someone, if the system thinks that you're not a human, you're a robot, you're trying to spam, it'll actually require you to do some kind of action. For example, mark all of the cars or boats or things like that. Okay, so what do you need to do? You need to go to Recaptcha admin console and you need to create a new site. For example, I have my website, tw.club, and I'm going to select the v3, which there's less of a disturbance for the customer, and I'm going to accept the terms. Okay, and add my domain, tw88.club. Okay, you want to secure it, only have that for your website. Click on submit, and you're going to copy the keys. Now, you shouldn't share this. So after this video, I'm going to delete this. But these things, that the site key and the secret key, don't share secret keys. These are private things. Always secure these things. Okay, so what am I going to do here? I'm going to go here. I'm going to type in my site key, and I'm going to copy my secret key, and I'm going to put it in. And I'm going to click on save. And now my forms will have some security right here. So I can click here, right? It's live. So that's it. I'm good. I can remove it if I want. So now if I refresh my page, now I'll have Google's Recaptcha right here, checking the page. And if something looks suspicious, it's not like a normal visit, they're going to prompt you to do something or basically don't allow you to submit the form. That's basically it. So hope this makes sense for you guys. If you have any questions about recommendations, how to use bugs, how to set up the mail sending, just anything about Contact Form 7, let me know. Let me know your suggestions, any hacks or cool things that you have, alternatives. We're here to communicate, to share information with everybody. Appreciate it, guys. I'll be submitting all the links to everything, and just appreciate for you guys listening to our videos and learning, sharing, and please subscribe, comment, join the community. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.